Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM signal, plus ESPN Radio and Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. If you're watching me on ESPN News as we speak, I have a cigar in my mouth. I took it out to talk, of course, but I have a cigar. And outside of that, I got on my Cowboys hat. It's very, very indicative of the kind of weekend that I've had. Very relaxing, very enjoyable, very fun-loving weekend in Los Angeles, California. I had a marvelous time at the game Saturday night. Los Angeles Rams beat the Dallas Cowboys 30-22. New Yorkers, fret not. Adam Gase press conference coming at you at 2 o'clock. We'll be carrying that live right here over the airwaves of ESPN Radio in New York. So make sure to you New Yorkers out there, New York Jets fans everywhere, Adam Gase, your new head coach, his press conference will be at 2 o'clock today. I wish him nothing but the best. Do I think he was the right man for the job? Do I think he's the savior? Or do I think he's the individual that's going to resurrect this Jets franchise into relevancy? Hell no. I don't believe it. I've got to see it to believe it, but I'm not rooting against him. And it's not like he's an individual that doesn't know football. I just don't think that the job he did in Miami was extraordinary, albeit he was derailed and bereft with injuries. So I'll take that into consideration. But that is something that we will talk about as the show progresses today. And again, to our New York audience, we'll be carrying that new Jets head coach Adam Gase press conference, his introductory press conference, live at the top of hour number 2 right here in the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. But the first order of business to get into is playoff action that took place this weekend. And like I said, I'm very, very relaxed, very, very, very calm. Life is beautiful. You know, I want to tell my producers, Jonathan and JC and everybody, y'all look marvelous. Everybody looks marvelous today. I'm in such a good mood. I mean, because I saw what was coming. Y'all didn't see what was coming. Y'all thought something different was going to happen. But you know something? Shame on you. Shame on you. And by the way, the Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Peloton, live studio classes in the comfort of your home. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks. No contracts. I told you it was coming. Look, in all seriousness, I thought that the Dallas Cowboys had better talent. I thought that the Dallas Cowboys, I gave them a 75% chance of winning this game. And the reason I gave them that opportunity is because I knew that talent-wise, they were a superior team. Talent-wise, believe it or not. The way they had been playing defense, the way Ezekiel Elliott runs the football, the way that Los Angeles Rams gave up 5.1 yards per rush, which led the NFL. Okay? I thought, you know something? It's reasonable to give the Dallas Cowboys a 75% chance of winning this game. But I still went with the 25% that I gave the Los Angeles Rams to be more than enough, because I said what can go wrong will go wrong. Somehow, some way, the Dallas Cowboys would find a way to blow another opportunity. And for now, not 5 years, not 10 years, not 15 years, not 20 years, for the last quarter century, the Dallas Cowboys could not find a way to get beyond the divisional playoff series and get to the NFC conference game, championship game. They couldn't do it. Now, we can look at a potpourri of things, a plethora of things, rather. We can do all of that if you want to. We can. You can sit up there and say Dak Prescott didn't have the most stellar game. You can do that. You can point to Ezekiel Elliott rushing for just 47 yards and 20 carries. You can point to the coaching. Because Jason Garrett, in concert with Scott Linehan, ultimately studied their own calls. And the Los Angeles Rams knew exactly what the Cowboys were going to do and when they were going to do it. And as a result, that made them incredibly transparent, which closed the gaps for Ezekiel Elliott to run the football. And as a result, you got what you got. We could go that route. We could do that. We could do that. But here's what I would ask you to see. I would ask you to notice C.J. Anderson rushing for 123 yards and 23 carries. I would ask you to notice Todd Gurley rushing for 115 yards on 16 carries. I would ask you to notice that the two combined for 3 touchdowns. Anderson with 2, Gurley with 1. I would ask you to look at all of those things. And then I would ask you to say this. Tell me that the Dallas Cowboys didn't get punched in the face. That's what this came down to. We can slice it any way we want to. But the Dallas Cowboys got manhandled at the line of scrimmage. And Dominican Sue was manhandling the offensive line. No matter what way you slice it. And Whitworth and his crew on the offensive line for the Los Angeles Rams was manhandling the Dallas Cowboys defensive line. Jared Goff was sitting back there. He barely had to put in a day's work. The Los Angeles Rams rushed the football 48 times Saturday night and threw the ball 28 times. One article was comparing the 32-year-old Sean McVay, the youngest head coach in the NFL, to the old coach Chuck Knox from the 70s, because that's the strategy they reverted back to. We're going to run it right down Dallas's throat, and we're going to dare them to do something about it. That is what happened. We can slice it any way we want. That is what happened. And in the end, as we look at this, even though Gallup had 6 receptions for 119 yards, even though Dak Prescott threw for 266 yards, the reality is this. The Dallas Cowboys found the latest innovative way to blow a game. You got Chris Richard, who's your secondary coach. Listen to this, y'all. Rob Marinelli is your defensive coordinator. He's the guy that got into it with a reporter damn near his age because he was upset being asked the question, was he concerned about his job security? He's a defensive coordinator, okay, that couldn't stop the run. I didn't think it was anything schematically, personally, on the defensive side of the ball for the Dallas Cowboys. I just thought that the offensive line was punching Dallas in the face. Gurley and C.J. Anderson was getting through the line of scrimmage into the secondary line of defense for the Dallas Cowboys, and Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith did not have the greatest game. They weren't playing their gaps. They weren't doing their jobs, along with others, and as a result, the Dallas Cowboys defense got exposed. I didn't think it was a schematic thing. I thought it was a personnel thing. I thought you had a whole bunch of guys on the Dallas Cowboys looking for a heart transplant. That's what I thought. That's what I saw. So I'm looking at it from that standpoint, and I'm just saying to myself, hey, they ran the ball effectively. Dallas couldn't stop the run effectively. And if you can't stop the run in playoff action, what kind of chance do you think you have? And when you take into account the fact that Keith Van Der Esch, along with Jalen Smith, were considered the stud linebackers, who, by the way, well-deserved because they were playing lights out coming into Saturday's game, and all of a sudden, they forgot how to tackle. They forgot how to play their gaps. They forgot how to be the stout defenders that they were prior to Saturday's matchup. And to me, that's why the Dallas Cowboys lost the game. But if you want to go the route of Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan not adapting to the circumstances of the Rams figuring out their plays, okay, that's fine. But doesn't that fall in line with what I told y'all about the Cowboys? Some way, somehow, when it counts, they will let you down. That's who they are. They can't help it. This is the Jerry Jones, Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan era. This is who they are. It's not going to change. Remember that episode of The Honeymooners, one of my all-time favorite comedies, if not my all-time favorite comedy? When Ralph Cramden was talking about his mother-in-law? He said, she's just naturally mean, that's all. She's never going to change, Alice. She's going to be the same old way, Alice. Remember that? That's the Cowboys. It's who they are. This is not about Dak Prescott. This is not about Ezekiel Elliott. This is about The Cowboys finding and inventing new ways to fall, new ways to collapse, new ways to remind you that there is an upper echelon in the National Football League and they are not a part of it, regardless of talent. We're sitting here with a nation of fans calling for the exit of Jason Garrett, Jerry Jones talking about extensions. And not only that, they're saying, well, maybe he may call. Well, I mean, he may start doing a play calling instead of Scott Linehan. Well, excuse me, wasn't Jason Garrett the offensive coordinator when Wade Phillips was the coach? Wasn't he the golden boy getting paid $3 million just like the head coach that was Wade Phillips? Isn't that how Jason Garrett made his bones as an offensive coordinator? Wasn't he the one doing that? So why would it take all of this a decade later before you realize you need to call the damn plays? This is the idiocy of the Cowboys. Let's hope it's not the Jets or the Giants in the future. Or that it's not the Los Angeles Rams next week. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. That was just one of the games that I wanted to get into. Here's the other. I'll get to the the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles going down to the New Orleans Saints a little bit. Have my man Damien Woody coming on at the top of hour number 2 as well. Every place but New York, who will be carrying the Adam Gase press conference, new head coach for the New York Jets. But before I get into that, I'd like to get into what I saw in New England yesterday. I don't know about the rest of y'all. What I witnessed was an annihilation. The most shocking outcome Saturday was Kansas City and how they manhandled Indianapolis. The biggest disappointment, however, was New England trouncing the Los Angeles Chargers. I want to emphasize that Anthony Lynn did an outstanding job as head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers this year. He deserves to be commended for the job that they did over the course of the season. We all have to reflect on that and give credit where credit is due. Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Ingram, Bosa, James, and the crew. They had a damn good season. Until yesterday. What we witnessed yesterday was an annihilation of epically embarrassing proportions. The score is not indicative of what transpired. It might as well have been 41-7. Because guess what? The Chargers didn't do a damn thing until garbage time. They got beat down, bum rushed, annihilated, embarrassed, out-schemed, out-coached, out-muscled, out-physicaled, everything. The first 4 times the Patriots touched the football, all of it resulted into touchdowns. By halftime, they had 35 points on the Los Angeles Chargers. They had 5 touchdowns. The Chargers had 5 first downs. You know, and here's the interesting part about it as well. You are the Chargers, and you're literally bragging about the fact that you play 7 DBs. You're going to rush 4. You're going to push 7 dudes into the secondary. Tom Brady was operating in a clean pocket all night long. He was sitting back, calling Giselle, saying hi to the kids, taking pictures, letting her know what he wanted for dinner before he threw a damn pass. And he ended up completing 34 or 44 passes for 343 yards. Sony Michel, coming into the game, I told y'all last week, Sony Michel was going to be the star of the game because they were going to run the football down. And the Patriots knew. But little did I know that James White was going to catch 15 catches. 15! It was only for 97 yards, but it was 15 catches. Julian Edelman had 9 catches for 151 yards. 8 of them were for first downs. I mean, Tom Brady was picking open receivers. Rob Gronkowski, there was a sighting. He ran over a couple of defenders a couple of times. He ain't the best tight end in football anymore. That would happen to be Travis Kelce. But I'm here to tell you something right now. The New England Patriots looked absolutely awful. Awesome. And for all of y'all out there, including myself, who's tired of seeing the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, I got news for you. You better get on your knees and pray for Patrick Mahomes to show up and show out. Because what he did against Indianapolis, even though he was relatively decent, we know that Damien Williams running that football. We know that them jumping out to a 17-0 lead against Andrew Luck. We know that Houston and D Ford and those boys being all in Andrew Luck's face all evening long played a significant role in Kansas City winning that game in inclement snowy weather. But don't expect that for 1 second to be the case against these New England Patriots. It was like the New England Patriots said, okay, it's the playoffs, y'all. We were playing around with y'all during the regular season. Have y'all forgotten who the hell we are? If you did, you need to ask somebody. That's what the New England Patriots did yesterday. I mean, it was an annihilation. And the thing that makes it so bad, and this is where the Anthony Lynn's, the Gus Bradleys of the world, people like that, this is when they look really bad. Where's the adjustments? Once the New England Patriots figure you out, once you forgot that you've got to put pressure on Brady and you've got to put a hat on Brady. Once that was figured out, where was the adjustments? Where were they? Inquiring minds want to know. Because you see, that's where it becomes problematic. You've got to have 3 or 4 different strategies to go up against Bill Belichick because he's a master gamesman. He's going to make adjustments throughout the game to try to exploit and take advantage of whatever you throw in his direction. Where was that at? We didn't see that. And poor Phillip Rivers. You know, Phillip Rivers spent 7 of the last 8 years missing the playoffs instead of making them. And I've been on the record stating on numerous occasions that as good and as gifted as I think he is, that has to be held against him. I don't hold yesterday against Phillip Rivers. He had no time to throw in the pocket. He was under constant pressure. Devin McCourty was a man amongst boys. He was everywhere. And other than Keenan Allen getting that first touchdown against New England, they couldn't do anything offensively. I got to tell you something. It's not on Phillip Rivers. I don't blame Phillip Rivers by any stretch. He didn't have any time to throw. He wasn't protected in the pocket. Guys weren't getting open soon enough. The offensive schemes were not working. I don't blame Phillip Rivers at all. He didn't have a chance. You gave him nothing to work with yesterday. Nothing. And the defense for the Los Angeles Chargers should have been ashamed of itself. They should have been ashamed of themselves. Seriously. They were that bad. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Like I said, we got Brady going up against Mahomes. We got Jared Goff going up against Drew Brees. A rematch that I think was at week 9 when the Saints beat the Rams 45-35. Rams had Cooper Kupp back then. They don't have him now. But I will tell you this about the Philadelphia Eagles. Hats off to them. Great season. They were left for dead, particularly after the loss to Dallas. Still found a way to get into the playoffs by winning 3 straight to end the season. Okay? They deserve a lot of credit. 4 straight, actually. They deserve a lot of credit. But I will tell you this. Michael Bennett had a good game. Defensively, they played relatively well. Offensively, after jumping out to a 14-0 lead, what did they do? You had a total of 94 yards over the last 3+ quarters. All of this noise about Nick Foles' magic, can we put an end to that, please? Nick Foles would count $20 million against the cap if the Philadelphia Eagles were to keep him. He's gone. And no, I don't think there's any kind of quarterback controversy because if it wasn't for Carson Wentz's health, we wouldn't be talking about this because everybody knows Nick Foles is no Carson Wentz. And I like Nick Foles, but let's stop it. When he was playing under Jeff Fisher, he was considered left for dead. He was contemplating retiring from football. That's what Jeff Fisher can do to quarterbacks. That's true. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. Nick Foles can play. If I'm Jacksonville, I'm looking at him. If I'm Denver, I'm looking at him. Hell, if I'm the New York Giants, and I'm not talking about drafting this kid Hawkins or Kyler Murray out of Oklahoma. And by the way, you should consider that because Kyler Murray, again, has to make a decision today as to whether or not he's going to went to the NFL draft, he's going to go play baseball. I personally think he's entirely too small to be behind center for an NFL franchise. That's me personally. He can't see over the line of scrimmage. I think that'll be problematic. But there's no doubt he can ball. He can flat out ball. But you're the Giants, you got to make those decisions or whether or not to go after Nick Foles, an experienced Super Bowl champion quarterback who's also an MVP for the Super Bowl. But don't tell me that anything other than a potential injury to Carson Wentz is the reason why there's questions about the quarterback of the future is, who the quarterback of the future is in Philadelphia. That's nonsense. Nick Foles got entirely neutralized. And yes, it wasn't his fault that Alshon Jeffrey dropped that pass and let it go into the hands of a defender, Lattimore. It was intercepted, game over, basically. Don't tell me that. What happened up until then? The New Orleans Saints defense completely shut the Eagles offense down. They couldn't do anything after going out 14-0 in the first quarter. They couldn't do a damn thing. And you knew Drew Brees was going to come back in New Orleans. That's basically my take from the games that took place this weekend. What about yours? 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. By the way, Peloton is a game-changing indoor cycling bike that brings the energy of live studio classes right to your home anytime you want, winter or summer, rain or shine. Whether it's a monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing the live leaderboard year-round. On average, Peloton members are riding their bikes more every year and crushing their personal records along the way. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls and more. Reviewing Week 2 of NFL playoff action in a minute. Here's the Select Quote term life insurance difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate. But Select Quote shops and gets you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurers. For a free personalized quote, call 1-800-601-6992 or go to selectquote.com. It should be all these damn owners who bought into all of these offensive minds when it comes to the head coaching circle throughout the National Football League. The Johnsons with the Jets choosing Adam Gase. The Arizona Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury with a K. Tampa Bay to a lesser degree with Bruce Arians because he's proven. Green Bay with Matt LaFleur. I'm not going to even call him LaFleur, John. Matt LaFleur. LaFleur. What did you do with the Titans that you deserve the privilege of coaching Aaron Rodgers? So I gave you 4 right there, and now we got a 5th one coming down the pike because if the reports are any way truthful, if there's any veracity to the reports, haven't you heard the news, ladies and gentlemen? Zach Taylor, the quarterback's coach for the Los Angeles Rams under Sean McVay, is about to get the job as the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. So you had 8 openings. You're going to have 7 jobs filled if this is true, not one single minority. All white dudes. Nobody's debating Vic Fangio. He deserves it. Nobody's debating Bruce Arians. He deserved it. But now we go on the route of Zach Taylor, a quarterback's coach under McVay in L.A., along with Kingsbury, Gase and his mediocre record, LaFleur in Green Bay. And let me not forget Mr. Fred Kitchens in Cleveland.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a special friend or loved one with 24 multicolored roses for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go right to the phones before hour number 2. Remember, my man Damien Woody is coming on to start off hour number 2, so stick around. Don't miss that. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Trayvon? You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Trayvon? How are you?
Trayvon in Woodbridge. Stephen A., I was going to ask how you're doing today, but I know with that Dallas loss, you're on cloud 9.
It is a lovely day. I mean, it is a lovely day.
To ear.
Do you see how beautiful? You see how beautiful New York is looking today? I mean, the sun is shining, the skies are clear blue. It's beautiful.
Oh
day.
man,
it's beautiful.
I just want to say though, real quick, Stephen A., that Scott Linehan, he needs to get out of there.
Oh.
I mean, the biggest play of the game was that 4th and 1, where we decided to rush it right up the gut, where it's been stuffed all day, where we have a mobile quarterback, where a play action or any kind of rollout, RPO, anything that should have been used all season, if there was any time to call it, right then and there, Stephen A.
That was true, but here's the thing. Here's the bad news. You have a guy in Jason Garrett who's only won 2 playoff games in his career as a head coach, who's once suffered back-to-back-to-back losses at the end of a regular season game, who should be in no, with the division title on the line, who should be in no position to speak about anybody's job security because he shouldn't have any himself. He goes on Dallas radio this morning and declares that Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, appears to be safe and he doesn't anticipate any changes. He told this to 105.3 The Fan on Monday that he expects the offensive coordinator to return for another season. So there goes that, Trayvon.
I read that as well. Stephen A., if I dropped a Dorito on Jason Garrett's shoulder, this man still wouldn't have a chip on his shoulder. This man, after every loss, smiling ear to ear. And then one last thing I want to say.
Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful for him. You know what I'm saying? There's not a care in the world. Go ahead.
Last thing I want to say is I don't think my man Dakota Prescott is getting any of the credit that he deserves, and especially from Cowboy fans.
Well, you can say stop it. He lost. This ain't the day to be celebrating him. He lost. Now, he didn't have a bad game. He wasn't awful, but there was easily a pick 6 that he got away from because Ubicam dropped the ball, okay? On that throw in the flat to the left. I mean, that should have been a pick 6 and a touchdown. So just stop it. I mean, the reality of the situation is that Dak Prescott can ball. He deserves his money. He deserves our respect. But it's not as if he's flawless, and it's not as if he's elite. He's not there. And now it might be because of your offensive, because of your offensive coordinator or your head coach or the combination of the two. But nevertheless, that is the situation right now. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to Harvey. You're live with Stephen A. Harv. How are you?
Stephen A. What up, man?
How you doing, man? How do?
I'm all right. And life is still good. But I want to ask you, how come you didn't call the game straight up the way you really feel? How come you just to say the Cowboys going to get their butt kicked?
Because I didn't feel that way. I thought that the Cowboys had enough talent, and I thought that the Los Angeles Rams, absent Cooper Kupp, was going to make things very, very interesting because I don't like the way their offense has been looking. You got to remember, coming into Saturday night's game, Cooper Kupp is out for the year, and we looked at Todd Gurley, who was coming back from injury, and we didn't know how healthy he would be. So you got a guy in C.J. Anderson that had been cut 3 times already in the last year. You had Todd Gurley, who had questionable health. You had Cooper Kupp, who's out, okay? And Jared Goff had arguably the worst month of his career under Sean McVay. So the combination of all of those things combined with how Dallas's defense was looking led me to acknowledge that, Dallas has got a pretty damn good chance of winning this game. I don't think they'll do it. I'll be damned if I pick them, but I got to confess that talent-wise, particularly considering, the obstacles that they wouldn't have to face due to injuries or whatever, put them in a good position to pull off the upset. That's what I did.
I'll just ask you, how come you just say Dallas going to get their butt kicked?
Okay.
I got one more
Excuse me. I answered the question. I answered the question quite thoroughly, I might add. Now go to your second point.
Now, let me tell you this, sir. You got a new fan, okay?
Go ahead.
You got a new fan. My woman is crazy about you.
Well, wait a minute now. I don't know if you should be saying that.
Yeah, because you know why? You know why she's crazy about you? Because she don't like the Cowboys, and she hates the Cowboys.
Well, here's my problem. Are you ready for this? Because you're a Cowboys fan, right?
I was a Cowboys fan.
Let me finish. I asked, you got to answer. You got to work with me, man. You're on my radio show. Are you a Cowboys fan?
Yes.
All right, and she is not, right?
Yes.
Are you ready? You want me to blow you away with this statement?
What?
It's more important to me that she loves you than if she loves me. I will concede, my brother. I am rooting for you. Listen, you have suffered enough. Your Cowboys lost Saturday. I don't want you to lose your woman, too. So tell your woman, I appreciate the love, but I would rather her take that love, that fervor, that momentum, and from me and transfer it all to you. I want you to have that love.
God, ain't no doubt about it. I'm going to have it forever.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Frank, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Frank.
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing?
I'm great. I'm fabulous.
Good.
Fabulous.
First, let me say, you're really an encouragement to me and my 4 sons. I just love seeing intelligent black men on TV. So God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you as well.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. I've been a Cowboy fan since 77.
Mm-hmm.
A little birdie told me that Jerry Jones listens to these national talk shows. Mm-hmm. So I just want to talk really, really quick as if Jerry is sitting there listening to me. 20 years of mediocrity.
Mm-hmm.
If any other general manager suffered through 20 years of mediocrity, Jerry Jones, you would have fired him. You need to fire yourself.
But he won't.
You need to
He won't.
back.
So he won't. So let's be realistic about this. He won't. And in fairness to Jerry Jones, he has put together a pretty damn good roster.
Stop operating with your heart and use your head. And if you can't do it, then step back and allow Steven to step in there and do it.
Oh, well, stop right there. Stop. Whoa. Hold on. If it were up to Jerry Jones, Johnny Manziel would have been there. Instead, it's Zach Martin. You think about some of the other personnel moves that have been made, Jerry Jones has supported that. Yes, Jerry Jones definitely is problematic, but you haven't brought up the biggest reason why he won't get rid of Jason Garrett. That's like an adopted son. That's the problem that Jerry Jones has. He won't get rid of Jason Garrett. That's what he needs to deal with.
You're exactly right. And see, I'm just asking that Jerry Jones, put yourself in the fan's shoes. I know you've seen that show, Undercover Boss.
Yeah,
Jerry
but he's
Jones,
not going to.
Go undercover, and you need to see what these fans are really dealing with. We spending our hard-earned money for what? For mediocrity.
Well, why you keep doing it? It ain't Jerry Jones' fault. Why you keep doing it? When's Dallas Cowboy fans going to step up then? I mean, you can't blame Jerry Jones for you being that sucker that's going to continue, and I'm not calling you that, I'm just speaking generically. If you are a Cowboys fan with the kind of complaints that you are articulating, then maybe, just maybe, it would behoove you not to be so supportive as long as he's going to support mediocrity.
I'm going to the games because it's just utterly ridiculous. I work too hard for my money to be spending it to watch a mediocre team.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
Mediocre team in Big D. That's what makes this funny. How about them Cowboys? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with more of your calls in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio. By the way, if you missed my opening segment, go check it out as well as my entire show on demand in the Stephen A. podcast, brought to you by the new Capital One Saver Card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and entertainment, 2% at grocery stores, and 1% on all other purchases. What's in your wallet? Boy, I would love to be a spokesperson. I know my man Samuel L. Jackson is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of Samuel L. Jackson, but I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind being a spokesperson for Capital One. Me being able to say to you, John, what's in your wallet? More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and ESPN News in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Now, my man Louis Riddick, NFL insider and analyst extraordinaire, particularly when it comes to NFL front offices, made a very adroit and an astute point when he highlighted the fact that you got a lot of these guys that have a history and a reputation of working with quarterbacks. And because they had a history of working with quarterbacks, that's the umbilical cord that the owners and league executives have used to justify hiring all of these guys as head coaches. My question would be this. I know Eric Bieniemy for the Kansas City Chiefs ain't calling plays, but this black man that's the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs happens to be the offensive coordinator for the number one ranked offense in the entire National Football League. Number one in yards. Number one in points. Number 3 passing attack. Excuse me, ain't that working with a quarterback? Look at me when I'm talking to you, John. Even though he ain't calling the plays, is Eric Bieniemy not working with the quarterback? If you're the offensive coordinator, you working with the quarterback, how come he didn't get the job? How come he didn't get the job? I mean, this stuff sticks to the high heavens. Nancy Amore for the USA Today, presumably piggybacking off of me, but maybe she didn't, astutely pointed out the disgraceful situation that's been taking place in terms of minority coaches not getting hired. But it's amazing to me the excuses. And you know, somebody said this too. When it comes to some of these white candidates, you know something? You look for an excuse to give them the job. When it comes to minorities, you're looking for the first reason for them to lose their jobs or to not give them a job. Double standards, inequality, all the things that we lament in our society today. Don't look to Capitol Hill.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. We're coming to you live from the Seaport District at Pier 17, South Street Seaport, brought to you by Chase. Also, with the Vivid Seats app, it's easy to find awesome seats to any game. Download the app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order today. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show, hour number 2. We'll have my man Damien Woody on. But until then, I'm going to get back to the calls at 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to what? Tex Johnson in Texas? Tex, are you there?
Yeah, first of all, you got to take that damn cowboy hat off and stop talking about the damn Cowboys. You understand me, son?
Well, who are you?
You understand me, son?
Who
Jerry
is
Jones
this?
don't need to do nothing, and the coach will not be fired. Cowboys Nation forever. Now, you went on your little laugh rant last night laughing at the Cowboys. You better stop, son. I'm telling you right now.
What's your problem? This is my show. I do what the hell I want on my show. Jason Garrett deserves to go, and that's that.
Listen, I know you got a big old fancy house up there in New York, New Jersey. I got some horses that can come do some business on your lawn if you like.
Whoa. Who is this?
My name is Tex Johnson, sir.
Hell no. This is you, isn't it, Shaq? This is Shaq. Shaq, that's you, ain't it?
This ain't Shaq.
Yes, it is. Oh, hell no. I can't believe you. I can't believe
my Cowboys. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, really? Since when did you become a Cowboy fan?
Right
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not some dude, Tex Johnson. This is Shaq.
This ain't Shaq. I love you.
Yes, it is. Oh, my God. You tried that? You actually tried that with me? Oh, you think I wouldn't recognize your voice? That's pathetic. Who put you up to this? Who put you up to this, Shaq? He hung up. Oh, I'm going to get him. That, ladies and gentlemen, trust me, I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. That was Shaquille O'Neal. With his, he trying to be slick. Carlton, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, man? Go ahead, Carlton.
Yesterday, Stephen A., we witnessed the worst performance by a defensive coordinator in the history of the NFL playoffs.
Gus Bradley?
So disgusted. Yes, Gus Bradley.
Oh.
I called you and I called Will Kane last week, and I told you exactly what the Chargers had to do to win this game, and they did the complete opposite. I told you they needed to take their fastest, best tackling safety and just mirror James White out of the backfield, and then you double Julian Edelman and make Tom Brady beat you down the field. Do you know this year, Stephen A., that James White had more yards after the catch than Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Kamara on the Saints, Thomas on the Saints, Kelsey on the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill on the Chiefs? He catches the ball on average 1 yard down the field, Stephen A. He had 87 receptions this year, and it was for 88 yards before the catch, and he goes for 667 yards after the catch in the regular season.
And had 15 catches yesterday. 15.
He and Edelman had 179 yards in the first half, Stephen A. The Chargers were playing a soft zone. He's catching the ball in the backfield, and there's not a Charger defender within 10 yards of him. Over and over and over again. Same with Edelman. Edelman's a slot receiver. He's catching the ball 5 to 6 yards down the field, and all of the safeties and DBs are further down the field.
8 of his 9 receptions were for first downs. 8 of his 9 receptions were first downs.
26 of Brady's 34 completions yesterday were to the backs or Julian Edelman. He threw for 8 completions to either the tight end Gronkowski, who only caught one ball, or the wide receivers. All you had to do was defend the backs, primarily White, because he had most of the catches for the backs, and double Edelman. It's just so simplistic. In 4 out of the 5 losses this year that the Patriots had, Stephen A., I told you this last week, James White had 31 or less yards catching the ball out of the backfield. Patricia knows how to defend the Patriots. Vrabel knows how to defend the Patriots. That's how they beat them this year. James White had nothing out of the backfield. What was Gus Bradley looking at? Wasn't he looking at the tapes of how to beat the darn Patriots?
He was asleep. He was asleep at the.
So pathetic.
It was pathetic. I gotta go, Carlton. I appreciate the call, but I can't wait. Let's talk tomorrow because I want to hear what you think Kansas City's gonna do with Andy Reid and Bob Sutton, because they certainly can't do what the Chargers did. It was an absolutely deplorable defensive performance by the Los Angeles Chargers. They were embarrassing because they were so transparent with what they do. They told you what they were gonna do all week with this 7 DBs, and they did it, and it worked to just imperfection to the highest order. Hour number 2 up next with my man Damien Woody, Stephen A. in the house. Stephen A. Smith Show here with you over the airwaves of ESPN Radio plus ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80. Simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. It's presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. Plus, the Stephen A. Smith Show is brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. On the line with yours truly as we speak is the big boy himself. You can catch him on NFL Live most weekdays. You certainly can catch him on First Take as well. NFL analyst for the family, the one and only Damien Woody, 2-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots during his career. He's here with yours truly right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. What's up, Damien? How are you, man? Damien, can you hear me?
I got you. I'm here.
There you go. First things first. Do you like my cowboy hat? I mean, it's quite nice. I think. The cowboy hat. I mean, it's like. I mean, how do? I mean, it really is a nice hat. What did you say? And what did you say? It's entirely apropos based on what you saw transpire to the Cowboys Saturday night.
Yeah. You know what? I had picked the Cowboys along with you. I might add.
No, I did not.
You were like.
I gave him a 75% chance to win. Yep, but I still picked against them because, damn it, they were the Cowboys, which means that despite the 75%, they would find a way to lose. That was my pick. Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm kicking myself because I'm like, here it is. I'm putting my faith in the Cowboys, and they let me down. They let me down, man. I'm going into the game thinking, okay, the Cowboys front, both lines, offense, defensive line, they're going to come through. They're going to get after Jared Goff. And those boys just ran roughshod all over the Cowboys defense. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I don't know if I can ever pick the Cowboys again. Ever.
What happened? I mean, did they get out coached? Did they simply get beat up? What happened to the Cowboys Saturday night in your estimation?
Well, listen, that game was won in the trenches. It really was. The Rams, coming into the game, the Rams' offensive line, I felt like took a little bit of a step back towards the end of the season. And what we saw from the Rams in this game, they literally imposed their will on the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys coming to the game had one of the best defenses in the National Football League, particularly their run defense was ranked in the top 5. So you would think like, okay, they're going to make the Rams one-dimensional and put it on Jared Goff's hands. But that wasn't the case. The Rams' offensive line completely dominated the Dallas Cowboys. And Stephen A., you know this. When you can't make a team one-dimensional, you have no shot. And that's what happened in the game.
Talking to Damien Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. It's one of those situations. You heard the news about Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan. Their calls were basically stunted. You had a situation where the Los Angeles Rams knew exactly what they were going to do and ultimately were prepared for it. How much of an indictment, if any at all, is that against the coaches, and what should be done about it in your estimation, Damien?
Well, listen, everyone has tendencies. You know, when you watch film and all those other things, everyone has tendencies. There's things you can pick up just by watching film. Even the New England Patriots have that. But for the Rams, for their coaches and players to be able to say, "Oh, we knew exactly what they were going to do," really? I mean, that's an indictment on the coaches because you can't be tipping off the opposition to what exactly you're going to do. And also, I had a problem with Scott Linehan and Jason Garrett not using Dak as far as his legs are concerned. That's one of the best parts of his game. You're not even going to try to use him on the run-pass options or trying to have him run the football some. That whole game plan by the Dallas Cowboys was just atrocious in my opinion.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's move on. We saw the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles go into New Orleans last night, jump out to a 14-0 lead, then get held to about 94 yards the rest of the 3+ quarters remaining. What did you make of that game, and what stood out in your mind about the Saints' victory over the Eagles?
Yeah, I thought that was by far the most entertaining game of the weekend. It seemed like the Saints were shell-shocked at first with the Philadelphia Eagles, jumping up 14-0. But once the Saints settled down and got a clue to what the Philadelphia Eagles were doing, the coverage was tight. I thought Eli Apple played great. I thought both corners played great for the New Orleans Saints.
Him and Marshawn Lattimore, yep.
Marshawn Lattimore, that's correct. Both of those guys played fantastic football, And that front, you saw that front. Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, started heating up Nick Foles, and it just threw the whole rhythm of the Philadelphia Eagles offense, and they couldn't score another point for the rest of the three quarters.
It's interesting that you say that, because if you're talking about that, that's really giving some praise to New Orleans defense. Is this a defense that's been appreciated to the degree that it should be? Is this a defense that you believe can carry them to the Super Bowl? Or is it going to take heroics from Drew Brees and Michael Thomas to deliver the championship goods in your estimations based on what you saw?
This New Orleans defense they're legit. They're legit. They're one of the better defenses in the National Football League. Early on in the season, they were working through a lot of things, particularly their secondary was being exposed. Remember Eli Apple being traded from the New York Giants into a new system. He wasn't playing as well early on, but now that he's settled in, he's playing fantastic. You know, LaShawn Lattimore is playing great. So this defense, man, they got guys that can get after the quarterback. They're one of the best teams in the league as far as sacking the quarterback. They really complement what Drew Brees and Michael Thomas and those boys do offensively. So I would say right now they might be the most complete team of the four remaining teams right now.
So much noise, Damien, was made coming into this game about Nick Foles' magic, how this team is just magical with him behind center, how they're just a different team, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that was the narrative before the game. We all know that it's a little bit different now that they lost this game to the Saints and they couldn't put up any points for the last 3.5 quarters. What are we to make of Nick Foles now overall based on what you've seen?
Well, listen, Nick Foles' value is extremely high. I mean, think about it, Stephen. They think about the teams that need a viable quarterback. You talk about the New York Giants, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Denver Broncos. He's going to have a market for him. This is a guy that obviously is a champion, former, a Super Bowl MVP. He really played lights out, especially when it came down to crunch time. When it mattered most, the guy came through. The guy, big-time ball player. He just didn't get it done against a better New Orleans Saints team, but he's going to have a big-time market when he hits free agency.
It's interesting, Damien, because we talk about him like that, but we're also in a day and age where we're talking about the mobile quarterback. I understand that Lamar Jackson can't throw the football the way that Nick Foles could throw the football, at least not yet. But we rave about the Deshaun Watsons of the world. Even when Aaron Rodgers and the greatness of him in terms of throwing the football, we also applaud his ability to run the football. You just finished talking about how Dak Prescott wasn't appropriately utilized because Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan didn't have him running the football as much as you would have liked to have seen him running the football. So taking all of that into consideration, why should we be so confident in Nick Foles in light of the fact that he is a relatively immobile quarterback that's definitely going to be standing in the pocket behind center?
Because at the end of the day, the game, the quarterback position is played from the neck up. That's the simplest way I can put it for you. Yes, the other guys that you talked about, whether it's the Patrick Mahomes and the Deshaun Watson, those guys are multi-dimensional type guys. They can beat you not only with their arm but with their legs. But at the end of the day, you still need to play the game from within the pocket. And one thing that we've seen from Nick Foles is this guy gets the ball out fast and he thrives under pressure. And those are traits that you need at the quarterback position in the National Football League.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's transition to the AFC. Based on what you just said, did we see greatness from Tom Brady yesterday, or did we just see inefficiency and ineptness from the part of the Los Angeles Chargers in light of the beatdown that they suffered at the hands of the New England Patriots yesterday?
Well, I think you saw both. Listen, that Chargers game plan was just trash. I mean, you're talking about once you saw that the Patriots got up 14-7, clearly you knew you had to readjust your game plan defensively. They weren't touching the receivers. They weren't rerouting the receivers. They weren't getting any pressure on Tom Brady. They were just giving Tom Brady all the answers to the test before the play was even snapped. And if you're going to do that with Tom Brady, good luck. It's not going to happen. Now, listen, you don't throw for 300-some yards by luck. That's still the greatness of Tom Brady and being able to distribute a football. And Rob Gronkowski only had one catch. So, listen, if people want to sit here and talk about, Tom Brady and, quote-unquote, his demise, but last time I checked, this dude is still playing at a super high level, one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Yeah, and listen, he looked absolutely spectacular yesterday. But I want to piggyback off of that and get into this to Los Angeles Chargers a little bit more. It makes no sense to me that you had 7 DBs, that you've been advertising it and telling the world that's what we do, and you go ahead and do just that when you're going up against a Bill Belichick team. That seemed to have made no sense whatsoever. We even got callers like Carlton and Tampa, for crying out loud, talking about how, James White should have been spied on. You should have keyed on them. You should have doubled Julian Edelman, etc. We saw none of that from the Chargers. How do we explain it?
Well, I think some of these coaches, Stephen A., in the league, man, they've run what they run. And what I mean by that is they have a certain system, and they're going to do what they want to do, which is, to me, is just ridiculous. You always have to have adjustments because the game of football is like chess. You gotta be able to make adjustments of the game. And what we saw from the Chargers, Gus Bradley, their defensive coordinator, comes from that Pete Carroll lineage. They're going to run one style of defense, and that's it. And clearly, the Patriots exposed it, and they weren't able to adjust to it. And that's why they're sitting at home with us.
If you're a guy like Phillip Rivers, who's been in this league for so many years, right, and you're knocking on the door, starving for an opportunity to capture a championship, that kind of thing, right? And then you watch your defense and your head coach sign off on a defensive scheme that was clearly so inept. How are you left feeling on a day like today, and how does that affect your future aspirations to play this game of football?
I feel bad for Phillip Rivers. I mean, listen, Phillip Rivers is going to be talked about in the vein of Dan Marino or Dan Fouts. Great player, put up great numbers, put up Hall of Fame numbers, but has never been able to kick through the door and play in a Super Bowl. And it's unfortunate because, to me, this was his best opportunity. This might have been his most well-rounded team since he's coming to the National Football League. This Los Angeles Chargers team really, really good on both sides of the ball. And unfortunate because coaches weren't able to adjust and do the things defensively to counter what the Patriots are doing. Phillip Rivers is now sitting at home, which is unfortunate because he really had a great season this year.
And I'm looking at Gus Bradley's resume. 4-year head coach at Jacksonville. His record was 14-48. His best season was a 5-11 record in Jacksonville in 2015. Prior to that, 4 years as a defensive coordinator under Pete Carroll in Seattle. His last year there, 2012, he had the number 1 ranked defense in points allowed, number 4 in yards allowed. And then after that, he becomes the head coach in Jacksonville. That spoke for itself. Over the last 2 years, he's with the Chargers, okay? They were number 3 last year. This season, they're 8th in terms of points allowed, but I just don't know what to say about Gus Bradley right now in light of what I just saw. Having said all of that, let me transition. My disappointment of the weekend, Damien, was the Chargers. My shock of the weekend, my surprise of the weekend was the Kansas City Chiefs beating Indianapolis the way that they did. For Indy to be playing the way that it's been playing, and then to go down in Kansas City 17-0 before they had a chance to pass gas was shocking to me. What did you make of what you saw from that game, particularly the beginning when Kansas City jumped all over them and went out to a 17-0 lead?
Yeah, listen, I think that the most surprising thing was the way the Kansas City Chiefs, their defense played. Their defense, they literally whooped the Indianapolis Colts offensive line, which coming into the game, I mean, most people, including myself, were saying that the Indianapolis Colts offensive line was one of the best units in the National Football League. Those guys were playing outstanding coming into the game, but got to give credit to Chris Jones, Justin Houston, D Ford, those boys, because they were getting after that Indianapolis Colts offensive line. They weren't able to run the ball, and they were getting pressure on Andrew Luck, just completely throwing off that offensive scheme that the Indianapolis Colts like to run. So credit the defense, man. The defense got after them.
How much credit do you give inclement weather, particularly when it detrimentally affected a dome team like the Indianapolis Colts? How much credence do you give to that argument?
I don't give much credence to it because the Indianapolis Colts, they're built for all weather. Their offensive line, they can go play anywhere, anytime. The way that they're built right now, and so that's why I give the Kansas City Chiefs all the credit in the world, especially defensively, because coming to the game, you know as I know, Stephen A., that one of the things that we talked about was the Chiefs' defense. I mean, their defense had been historically bad, and that was one of the question marks coming into the game was, would they be able to hold up against this Indianapolis Colts offensive line? And to see them go out there and perform the way that they perform, got to give them all the credit in the world.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News, our NFL analyst in the house with yours truly. Now that that's all being said, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the New England Patriots. Handicap that game for me. What will you be looking for?
Wow. Listen, being that I'm a former, I played with the New England Patriots before. I know how they operate. They try to make you play left-handed. They're going to look to try to take away something that the Kansas City Chiefs that they do well, whether it be taking players away, like a Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, or taking a certain scheme away that the Kansas City Chiefs like to do. On the flip side, it'd be interesting to see New England Patriots. They just morph into a lot of different things. What we've seen of them lately is they like to pound you and run the football. It's like ground and pound. I want to see how the Kansas City Chiefs hold up against that rushing attack that the New England Patriots are going to bring to Arrowhead Stadium. With that being said, I think that Patrick Mahomes, the difference is going to be Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is just different. He is special. I don't know if we've seen a talent like him in quarterback in a long, long time. He is that good of a player. And with all the players that the Kansas City Chiefs have on offense, you can't take all of them away. They have Tyreek Hill. They have Travis Kelce. They have Sammy Watkins. They have Damien Williams. Can't take every one of them away, and you know that Pat Mahomes is going to find somebody.
Damien Woody right here. Let's get to the NFC before I let you get on out of here. New Orleans versus the Rams. The Rams don't have Cooper Kupp, but Todd Gurley's healthy. C.J. Anderson is there. Jared Goff and those boys have to return to the Superdome, and there was an Ndamukong Suh sighting who played lights out Saturday night in the playoffs against the Dallas Cowboys. Where are you at with all of this?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a different. I think this is going to be a different ball game. On first take, I pointed out one play in particular, Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle for the New Orleans Saints. That's going to be a huge loss for the New Orleans Saints on defense, in particular up the middle. We saw what the Rams did to the Cowboys. Cowboys had one of the best rush defenses in the league, and they just bullied them all over the field. And I think coming in this game, the Rams are going to be looking to do the same thing: run the football with Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson down this New Orleans Saints' throat. It's going to be that physical type of attack that you're going to see from the Rams, and obviously they're going to play action and have Jared Goff make plays down the field. But it's going to be that rushing attack that I think is going to give New Orleans Saints problems.
I'm not going to ask you who's winning between Kansas City and New England because we all know you're going to pick New England. That's just what you're going to do. Okay, that's as a former two-time champion with the Patriots. But what?
Are you trying to call me a homo or something?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. What about the Saints? The Rams. Who you going with?
I'm going with the Rams.
Going with the Rams for the upset on the road.
I got the Rams on the road.
Real quick, you also played with the New York Jets. Adam Gase, press conference in New York today, going on right now. How do you feel about him as the new head coach of the New York Jets, the former Dolphins coach?
Well, listen, he got a lot of, big-time background in offense. He's worked with a lot of different quarterbacks, different style of quarterbacks. Made them successful, which is good. My only issue is, we've seen this script before. We've seen Rex get fired, get hired again. Didn't work. We've seen Eric Mangini get fired, hired right off the bat, didn't work. So what's to say that this is going to work? We'll see, but they got a lot of work to do in Florham Park to build that roster back up.
Appreciate you, big boy. Thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right. One and only Damien Woody right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes. You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search It should be all these damn owners who bought into all of these offensive minds when it comes to the head coaching circle throughout the National Football League. The Johnsons with the Jets choosing Adam Gase. The Arizona Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury with a K. Tampa Bay to a lesser degree with Bruce Arians because he's proven. Green Bay with Matt LaFleur. I'm not going to even call him LaFleur, John. Matt LaFleur. LaFleur. What did you do with the Titans that you deserve the privilege of coaching Aaron Rodgers? So I gave you 4 right there, and now we got a 5th one coming down the pike because if the reports are anyway truthful, if there's any veracity to the reports, haven't you heard the news, ladies and gentlemen? Zach Taylor, the quarterback's coach for the Los Angeles Rams under Sean McVay, is about to get the job as the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. So you had 8 openings. You're going to have 7 jobs filled if this is true. Not one single minority. All white dudes. Nobody's debating Vic Fangio. He deserves it. Nobody's debating Bruce Arians. He deserved it. But now we go on the route of Zach Taylor, a quarterback's coach under McVay in L.A., along with Kingsbury, Gase, and his mediocre record, LaFleur in Green Bay, and let me not forget Mr. Fred Kitchens in Cleveland.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
A training program for your next race. So setting a new personal best. The Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing a live leaderboard year-round. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. And if you're watching me simulcast over the live national television airways of ESPN News, you will notice that I have on a cowboy hat. Guess why? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be cruel to those Cowboy fans out there. My condolences to the Cowboys as an organization, as a team, because you got a lot of good guys on there who are tremendously talented. My ire is not at them. My mocking is not at them. It's the damn Cowboy fans. You know, and they tried to get at me. A couple of them tried to get at me. You know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, Stephen A. I said, no. I'm not even worried about it. Yeah, next year, and the year after that. Same old garbage from the same old garbage Cowboy fans. Next year. 25 years and counting. 25 years and counting. Let's remember that. I want to hear that. Los Angeles Rams, congratulations, way to handle your business. But little did anybody know that you'd have a coaching staff rife with idiots that didn't see that you knew their damn plays. Go figure. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Ezel. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Stephen. Hey, my man, what's happening?
How do? What's up?
Listen,
What's up?
man, I want to first say, man, my wife have a love and hate relationship for you. I got to be honest with you.
Your wife has a love-hate. What's the love and hate about?
See, it's simple. She don't like your arrogance, but she loves your vocabulary.
Well, what's wrong? What's wrong with the arrogance? What's wrong with the arrogance?
I don't know. Some women it's a turn on for them, a turn off. But listen, let's talk about the real
She don't mean
America's
it.
team.
She don't mean it. She ain't got nothing but love for me. What about the Patriots? You know what? I like that, though. The real America's team. The real America's team is the Patriots. It really is.
Listen, I want to say this, and I mean this in the utmost. I'm from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised in the Michael Jordan era.
Okay.
People, I understood why people. I never understood why people didn't respect greatness. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you when you see greatness, it's in your face. It doesn't. It's no joke. It's genuine. It's straight up real.
Exactly.
They don't give the Patriots the same respect. I don't understand that.
Well, first of all, the Dallas Cowboys have hoodwinked America. Let's take this and let's break this down into simplest form so we can understand, our audience can understand where you're coming from. All right, Ezel? Here's the deal. America. Is America, in the eyes of most Americans, not the greatest country we've ever known on God's green earth? I think it is. I mean, when you consider the democracy that we have, yes, we have our issues. Certainly, we're not flawless. We have things that we could fix. Things could be better. There's no doubt. But there are still people risking life and limb just to come across these borders to be partners and members of the United States of America. So we are the nations. We are the greatest nation in the world, religiously associated with excellence and superiority. But the one franchise classified as America's team has been a walking piece of mediocrity for the last quarter century, and somehow they've gotten away with it. It's inexcusable. Now let's analyze why the Patriots should really be America's team. First of all, they win. This is their 10th appearance in an AFC Championship game in the last 13 years. Okay, that's just phenomenal. It's unfair, okay? We know they've got 5 Super Bowl titles. We know they have 8 appearances to the Super Bowl. The face of their franchise is a guy by the name of Tom Brady, all right, who's this average-looking dude that damn near embarrassed himself at the NFL scouting combine. And what is he now? Recognized as arguably the greatest quarterback ever with a supermodel as his wife. I mean, if that doesn't personify the greatness of America, what does? And let me tell y'all something right now. And Tom Brady, he can't possibly be offended by this because there's nothing offensive about what I'm about to say. Let me tell y'all something right now. Do you know, Ezel, what one of the greatest moments in Olympic history was?
When Giselle walked
When Giselle did that walk to represent Brazil in the Olympics. Oh, my Lord. I mean, let me tell you something right now. If ever there was a woman who personified beauty beyond comprehension with a walk, it was that. I have been needless to say, when I have free time, I take time to watch models walk the runway. I mean, it's no crime against that, okay? And I have never in my life seen somebody walk the runway the way Giselle walked that runway for the Olympics. That was something special. That was something special. Now, if that ain't America's team, all right, well, damn it, it's Brazil's then. It's Brazil's then, okay? Pick your point, all right? I'd say they got 2 countries, okay? America and Brazil. All right, that's what I say. All right, that's what I say. That's just me, Ezel. That's just me. All right?
Hey, listen, let me ask you another question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
What do you think our chances are? And realistically.
Honestly, realistically, based on what I saw yesterday, 50-50. Now, I don't believe for one second that Andy Reid and Bob Sutton will be as transparent as the Chargers were with their defense, but Kansas City has had problems defensively all year long, and the last time they faced New England, Brady dropped 43 on them. So I would if Gronk is going to be healthy running over dudes, if James White's going to be able to catch passes out of the backfield, if Julian Edelman's going to look like a stud the way he did yesterday, I'm sorry. I give the Patriots a 50-50 shot. It's a pick 'em game. It's a pick 'em game because there's no way in hell that New England's defense is going to shut out Patrick Mahomes and those boys, not with Tyreek Hill out there. They ain't shutting out Kansas City like that the way that they beat up on the Chargers. That's not happening. I promise you that.
Well, I believe we can make them one-dimensional, though, because their running game ain't as
Stop right there. Okay, so you turn them into a passing team. Here's your problem. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, the best tight end in football. He's the best tight end in football now. He's taken that mantle from Rob Gronkowski. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in football. And, oh, by the way, you're getting Sammy Watkins back. You forgot about that?
Yeah.
All right. Good luck with that. Call later in the week, bro. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Matt. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Matt.
Yes, sir. Stephen A. What's going on, brother?
How do?
Speaking of how do, I was going to ask you, can we agree that Clemson played the best game in Cowboys Stadium this year?
Who?
Clemson.
Yeah, and what's your point?
I mean, as a Cowboys fan, that was the best game I've seen all year in Cowboys Stadium.
Well, listen, it depends on how you look at it. Clemson wasn't playing against NFL competition. They were playing against a few NFL caliber players, but not against an NFL team. All right, that's college. We're talking pros. And the reality is that the Cowboys got to go against somebody. And I personally believe that the Cowboys beating up the New Orleans Saints on Thursday Night Football was a spectacular performance by the team.
Oh yeah, I think Breeze is going to do it. I think Breeze is going to come down to him and Brady, and
we'll see. We'll see. I think Mahomes going to have something to say about that, bro. I really, really do.
Honestly, I was hoping to see Houston against Mahomes.
Oh, stop! Listen, you know what? Have a nice day, man. Houston was never ready. They were never ready. I saw that all year. Coming. Well, you call back later. Call back later on in the week, but I appreciate the call. Thank you. Brian, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Brian, talk to me.
Stephen A., my man, you look like you're on an audition for Blazing Saddles.
You know what? I would prefer if you had said Dallas with Larry Hagman and those boys got arrested. I used to love that. I used to love that show. I used to love that and Dynasty with John Forsythe and Miss Collins and all of that. But I loved Dallas. I loved that show, Dallas. It was beautiful. I'm talking about the old Dallas from the old days with Larry Hagman. JR. Who shot JR? Yeah, that. I love that. Yeah.
Who shot
but go
Stephen
ahead. How do? Let's go back.
Hey, man,
yes.
Just real quick, Chiefs Patriots. Now, I'm a Chiefs fan, and the Patriots are 3-13-1 all time at Arrowhead. So they got that going for them.
They wasn't going against Mahomes, though.
My only concern, Stephen A., is this. Is Andy Reid going to revert back to being conservative when you know what hits the fan? Or now that he has Mahomes, or is he going to open up the entire playbook?
Let me stop you.
They haven't been to the Super Bowl
Let me
in
stop
50
you.
years.
Let me stop you. I will say this. The Andy Reid that I'm seeing with Mahomes is unlike any Andy Reid I've ever seen. He lets this brother go because he seems to know he has one spectacular talent at his disposal. I think that's what's going on here. So that much
I just don't see how New England is. Belichick isn't going to be able to take away just one guy because New England will get murdered in other areas. They've already proven they can hang with New England toe-to-toe, point for point. It's just, if Kansas City's defense plays this coming week like they did this last week, then I see Kansas City winning.
Yeah, I hate when people say that. I hate when people say that. Stop. Of course, if they play defense like that, the question is, can they against Brady and the crew? Because this is Indy we were talking about. They did that too Saturday. New England's a different animal come postseason time. End of discussion. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. If you missed our interview today with Damien Woody, go check out the entire interview on demand in the Stephen A. podcast. Brought to you by the new Capital One Saver card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and entertainment, 2% at grocery stores, and 1% on all other purchases. Hey! What's in your wallet? We'll close out the show with your calls and more in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio. Now, my man Louis Riddick, NFL insider and analyst extraordinaire, particularly when it comes to NFL front offices, made a very adroit and an astute point when he highlighted the fact that you got a lot of these guys that have a history and a reputation of working with quarterbacks. And because they had a history of working with quarterbacks, that's the umbilical cord that the owners and league executives have used to justify hiring all of these guys as head coaches. My question would be this. I know Eric Bieniemy for the Kansas City Chiefs ain't calling plays, but this black man that's the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs happens to be the offensive coordinator for the number one ranked offense in the entire National Football League. Number one in yards, number one in points, number 3 passing attack. Excuse me, ain't that working with a quarterback? Look at me when I'm talking to you, John. Even though he ain't calling the plays, is Eric Bieniemy not working with the quarterback? If you're the offensive coordinator, you working with the quarterback, how come he didn't get the job? How come he didn't get the job? I mean, this stuff stinks to the high heavens. Nancy Amore for the USA Today, presumably piggybacking off of me, but maybe she didn't, astutely pointed out the disgraceful situation that's been taking place in terms of minority coaches not getting hired. But it's amazing to me the excuses. And you know, somebody said this too. When it comes to some of these white candidates, you know something? You look for an excuse to give them the job. When it comes to minorities, you're looking for the first reason for them to lose their jobs or to not give them a job. Double standards, inequality, all the things that we lament in our society today. Don't look to Capitol Hill.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, simulcast over the live national television airways of ESPN News. For those of you seeing me on television and saying, why does he have on that cowboy hat? Use your imagination, or better yet, TiVo, go to the television screen and Google what happened Saturday night at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Let's go back to the phones. I'm sorry. I got distracted. Let's go back to the phones. Mike, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. Mike?
Yep.
You're live on the air, buddy. Go ahead.
Okay, brother.
Mike, go ahead. You're live over the airwaves. Speak.
Hey, Stephen A. Mike James here out of Kernersville, North Carolina. How you doing, bro?
I'm all right. Hurry up. Go ahead, man.
Oh, hey, this is what I got, man. I've been a Cowboy fan since I was 6 years old. You call it as you see it. I respect that, my man. They need to turn the reins over to Bill Cowher and let him run the organization and let Jerry Jones stay home.
With all due respect, I respect the hell out of Bill Cowher. I appreciate his years in Pittsburgh. There's no doubt that he will always have my respect, my adulation to some degree, but he coached for 15 years and had one Super Bowl title. He went 1-on-1 in Super Bowl just like Mike Tomlin did. Rather. So this notion that it's Bill Cowher, okay. But do I think that you could get somebody that could do just as well? Yeah. That's just how I feel about it.
I like Dennis Green.
Well, he passed away years ago, buddy. God rest his soul. I appreciate the call, though. Thank you so much. Let's go to Dawson. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Dawson, go ahead.
What's going on, Stephen A?
I'm all right.
I've asked you this forever.
Mm-hmm.
What in the world makes you think that R.J. Barrett is a better basketball player than Zion Williams?
No, I just said that Zion Williams, I think, has an incredible upside, but as a collegiate basketball player, you look at the numbers, you look at the game that R.J. Barrett has in terms of the perimeter and what have you. I definitely think that he's a better shooter. Obviously, he's a better scorer right now because he's somebody that's averaging 23 a game for Duke. Zion Williamson is a monster in the making. At 280 pounds with his physical prowess and his athletic ability, I definitely think the upside is greater. The flip side is that he is not as composed as R.J. Barrett is on the basketball court. He's a little bit more erratic. If I had the number one overall pick, I would go with Zion Williamson over R.J. Barrett. But for the purposes of college basketball this season and what's required, I definitely think that R.J. Barrett is more valuable. I think he's cooler. I don't think he'd get into foul trouble. I think he's a better shooter. I think he's a better ball handler. And I think that he's got that kind of game.
Look at R.J. Barrett's field goal percentage versus Zion's.
First of all, stop right there. Stop right there. Zion Williamson is usually dunking over everybody because he's listen, most of Zion Williamson's points, or some of them, have come on dunks. That's not the same thing. And the reality is I don't want to hear anything about field goal percentage. That's something that you could throw out. You can go to the analytics dudes and what have you. You can do that all you want to. In the end, watching the game and seeing it with my eyes, I definitely believe that Zion Williamson has a greater upside. R.J. Barrett is what he is, and Zion Williams is not what he is going to be, so the upside is greater. I would take him number one overall, but R.J. Barrett is the real deal for Duke, which is why he's leading them in scoring right now with 23 a game as a collegiate athlete. I got to get on out of here. I got to sign off, but I'll be back in 22 hours from now. Remember, Adam Gase is in New York being interviewed by the media his first day as Jets head coach. Stephen A. signing off until 22 hours from now. Until then, peace and love.